So, the wait is over. You've been working on a retro video game console computer to play all your favorite old retro games on, but you forgot one thing. You're just using like a wired Xbox 360 controller to play all these games, or maybe just a generic like Logitech plug-in USB controller or something like that. Now, at least to me, using just one generic controller for every old console just really takes away from the effect of playing that console. It takes the nostalgia away from it. You feel like you're just emulating it, and it loses some of its integrity whenever you just use like your go-to controller for everything. Because, I mean, a Nintendo 64 controller was ridiculous in its design. It made little to no sense, even being Nintendo's first 3D console. Or like the NES, that color combo on the controller is iconic. Or even stuff like Game Boys. Playing a Game Boy with an Xbox controller feels a little bit weird. Can you do it? For sure. Is it comfortable? Yeah, the Xbox controller is great. But it unplugs you from how it felt playing that console. And what we're looking to do today is find out which controllers, at least in my opinion, are the best for which old gaming consoles. What will actually make you feel more in tune with that console experience? I've rounded up a few of the most common Bluetooth controllers you'll probably find just pop up on Amazon. You're starting to see them a little bit more in stores like Best Buy and vintage stocks and game exchanges and things like that. And we're going to take a pretty close look at them, talk about their features just a little bit, and then I have a few controllers in here that I just can't take myself away from. So I've got a trick that some people may not even know exists for using just a handful of old console controllers, the originals, with your emulators, just to further complete that perfect retro gaming setup. And I really think if you haven't ever looked into Launchbox, you should take a deep look into it. The regular version of Launchbox is free, but if you pay for the big box, you will never regret it. It's so cool the way that it organizes by system, adds the information about when it was developed and released, organizes all your games alphabetically and downloads gameplay videos and downloads box art, 3D box art, front and back, descriptions of the games, community. So, here's a look at the controllers we're going to be taking a closer look at today. So, we have a clear original PlayStation 1 dual analog controller, one of the GOATs. Then we have the 6-button Sega controller. Up from there, we've got the original GameCube controller, which again is just one of the greatest console controllers. Then we have a new N64 controller, a new style Super Nintendo controller, and a new style NES controller. We're going to take a little bit of a closer look at these one by one and talk about what I think are the best consoles that they tie in with. First up is the N30 Pro. Now this is the one I've had for the least amount of time, but maybe had the biggest impact on me out of all of them in terms of a new controller. Its feel is awesome. I do prefer it to an actual original Nintendo controller, but it's close enough, especially like the D-pad and the plastic that front cover is made out of, make it feel like it literally was made and used with an NES. But you've got comforts like the analog sticks. You've got the 4 face buttons instead of 2. On to the next is the SF30 Pro, also by 8bitdo. Now, the Super Nintendo controller, in my opinion, is one of the most comfortable, old-school, like truly retro game controllers. This one also has comforts like the dual analog sticks. This and the N30 Pro both use USB-C, they use Bluetooth, and they have ridiculously good battery life. And they can pair with multiple systems. Both can either pair with, like, say, a Switch, a Mac computer, Windows computer in 2 different fashions, or Androids. This is obviously the best for Super Nintendo. And some games like Earthbound, I like the analog stick on more. And it also has an optional smartphone clip that you can play your emulators on your Android phone using the controller too. And it's pretty cool. It'll work with just about any size phone as well. Another just absolutely perfectly designed Bluetooth controller by 8bitdo. And again, even the case plastics remind you of the Super Nintendo controller. It's kind of crazy. It's almost like they found the compound that they used and reused it again. It's beautiful. Up next, we have another by 8bitdo, but this one was actually a collaboration with Retrobit, and it's the R8B64. Another Bluetooth wireless controller built unbelievably close to the same standard as the original N64 controller. But this one has a couple of drawbacks. For quick reconnect to work, I had to plug it in and update the software on it, which was really hard to figure out. And then also it uses micro USB charging, and it's the only thing I think in my whole house that still uses that. But you can just grab a little USB-C to micro USB adapter and just use the same charger to charge all three of these controllers by 8bitdo. And I do like the little fake cartridge slot on the back. Up next, it's the Icon. It was the first controller that had analog sticks on it that made sense released to the public. A design that they have barely changed in 25 years. The DualShock for the PlayStation 1. Now, this is actually an original Sony-made controller, and I'll show you at the end of the video this cool little thing that I'm using to let me use this original PlayStation controller to play my original PlayStation games on this emulator. Up next is the iconic 6-button Sega controller. Now this one I'm going to let squeak by because it's not an original controller and it's not a wireless one made by 8bitdo either, but it is an actual Sega branded USB controller, which I think is sick. And it is obviously perfect for not only Genesis, but Master System and Game Gear games. Now, on to the GameCube controller. This one, again, is just a regular original GameCube controller, just one of the third-party clear ones I think I got from Vintage Stock. And you can't play GameCube games with any controller other than this one. It should just almost be illegal. There's something about the way that this controller feels in your hand that nothing else will emulate. The difference in playing GameCube with this controller or with, let's say, one of those 8bitdo controllers is almost unbelievable. Now, here is what I'm using to convert the original PlayStation controller and the GameCube controller to work with my computer, as well as two USB pass-throughs. I think I got this like 10 years ago, but I think you can still find similar things, and I can't recommend these enough. They make the whole experience more genuine. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, whatever you feel like, and we'll catch you next time.